So this is Mission Collaborate with Verity, Debbie, Dina and Amanda. The current government came into office with missions and milestones that were across cross-cutting policy areas. But historically, UK public sector organisations have tended to work in silos. Joining up teams within departments is often difficult before we even get to joining them up across departments and the wider public sector. So how can we work better together? How can cross-government communities and networks help? And what new ways of working do we need to adopt? Luckily, we've got a great panel to talk us through that. We've got Verity Prime, Executive Director at the National Audit Office, Debbie Wilson, the Head of Data at Ordnance Survey, Amanda Payne, Client Success and Strategy Director at GAIN, and Dina Habashi Ayub, the Platform Owner at HMRC and also the Women in Tech Network Chair. As again, you know how this works now, I'm going to give all of our panellists a few moments to share their thoughts on the topic of collaborating across government. We'll have a bit of a chat on the panel and then we'll make sure there's time for questions from all of you. So who'd like to kick us off? Should we go this way down the panel?
We can do that. Hello, everyone. So I guess with me, given I've got two hats, so I've got my day job, so I work in HMRC as a platform owner stroke product manager. So from a collaborative perspective, in the product community, collaboration is successful when we are aligned to shared goals, shared outcomes, we are focused on user needs, and psychologically safe environments as well is something that we need to be able to establish. So that's really important. On the other side, with my Women in Tech Chair hat, and also the Cross-Government Women in Tech Network Chair lead role, networks and communities are incredibly important, and they are massive enablers, or powerful enablers, as I should say, for collaboration with the community. Sorry, as you know, I've listened to people talking about say yes to opportunities, do things that feel the fear. So this is one of the things I'm doing to feel the fear and do it anyway, speaking in front of all of you. So collaboration is incredibly important from a community perspective. So it's a powerful enabler. And also when we look at collaboration, especially across government, we tend to think of governance, we tend to think of structures, all of this. And obviously I work in IT, a lot of us work in IT. So we think of like the IT infrastructure, but there's the people side as well. So for me, it's very much, there's the people platform infrastructure, but then there's the human infrastructure as well. It's the people. And that's really important. So for us to be able to effectively collaborate, we need to have both of these because you need them to coincide to really be able to collaborate effectively.
I represent a supplier into public sector, so consultancy services and helping public sector adopt technology and digital transformation. And I think our role in helping teams and government departments collaborate is bringing first the identifying where this has been done before, where we have seen it work and help bring those practices and conversations in. But we can also join up departments. So we've actually brought very different departments that would have never spoken together in the same room to share their transformation journeys, so that one department could learn from another in terms of what went well, what didn't, what to avoid. And then I think we can also help be the consensus builder. So I think Chris Bellamy had a "this is not collaboration" approach first thing this morning, and that really resonated with me, especially when one department owns the budget or one department owns the idea, that having some neutral people in the room to facilitate that consensus. And I always believe that a disagree and commit is better than getting everybody to agree. And so making sure you know where those points are in terms of that.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I work for Ordnance Survey. So we're not a government department, but we are part of government, where we lovingly refer to ourselves as the map factory. So we build our digital data products and services for you guys in the room. What we do isn't for us. So collaborating is fundamental to our ways of working and our culture. We actually release and produce our products for 6,000 public sector users, which is a lot of you. And kind of how we have to approach collaboration is multifaceted. So in order to kind of maintain the data that underpins it, we go out and collect a load of it ourselves, but there's a lot of it that actually is produced and maintained by local authorities, by central government, and it's our role to kind of bring that together and integrate it with ours to build the richer set of data. So we have to collaborate and empower and uplift and govern and provide best practices to our kind of people that are helping us maintain the map. But as I mentioned, 6,000 public sector users. The flip side of our collaboration and engagement is enabling you guys and listening to our customers really understand what are you wanting to use the data for. So all of our data is being used somewhere to support all of the government missions. So a lot of our collaboration is actually working with you to understand, is the data good enough? Is our products good enough? Is the way that you're getting access to the data good enough? So we want to engage and we want to listen and we want you guys to help us make our products better. But we also collaborate further than that because we've got a really rich partner network and innovation network because we can't solve every problem for all of our customers. So we work with private sector and beyond to kind of make sure that they're providing the products, the services, the solutions that will enable us all to succeed together. So, Verity.
Hi everyone, I'm Verity. I work at the National Audit Office, and I've only been there for a year, so I'm only just learning that sometimes when you introduce yourself like that, you get like a sharp intake of breath, like, oh, I can't possibly talk to you. So if you don't know, the National Audit Office audits over 400 government accounts. We also do value for money reports that go to the Public Accounts Committee looking at what we can learn from programmes across government. I've been in the kind of wider public sector for over 20 years of my career. So I guess part of collaboration is partly I have a self-interest. So I job share with someone called Laura Lucking. So job sharing is collaboration at its heart, and it's a great way to do challenging jobs. And what really has driven my career choices has been the importance of delivering services to citizens, whether that be have a tech and digital aspect or not. And I've seen that at a local level when that doesn't work. I remember working in a public health team and getting together all of the government targets that we'd had given to us locally from across government. And this spreadsheet was, 200 lines of government targets that local public health teams were meant to do. And I could see the lack of coordination from across government departments really signalled through that. So we made our own choices locally about what was important to us. So I have a real passion about how can we make services better and how can we make it easier for people delivering locally to do their jobs effectively. And, the National Audit Office has gone lots of reports, but I guess the one thing that really stood out to me as I was looking through them was the importance of a shared vision. There's a real lack of incentives to work across government, especially when budgets might sit in one department, but the kind of value for money release might come about in another part of government or the wider public sector. So it's really important part of making better decisions and delivering better services is that collaboration. But there are some things that make it successful and some things that get in the way.
Brilliant, thank you. I might pick up on those points and sort of put to all of you, because you've all given us some great examples of where collaboration is working, some of the reasons why it isn't. What can leaders of public sector organisations do to foster more collaboration, to support it where it's happening? And what can the centre of government do to set the tone for some of that as well?
I think I'd like to add on what Verity mentioned around incentives. So I think one of the things we can improve on collaboration is around having incentives that are aligned to shared goals. So generally within government, we are very departmental centric. But if we have shared goals and we align to those more strongly than we do our own organisational boundaries, it will make it a lot easier to be able to do the collaboration. There are lots of challenges to collaborate. So when we look at our IT systems, we don't necessarily have those interoperable platforms to be able to collaborate as effectively as we'd like to do. And in terms of collaboration, it's not that there isn't a willingness across government to collaborate. You know, we have our public servants, you know, our civil servants are very, very committed across government to be able to deliver good outcomes for our citizens, you know, the citizens that we serve. So it's not about willingness, not a willingness not to do that, but it's just having the right mechanisms in place to do that. So from a leadership perspective is to be able to have those behaviours so that collaboration actually happens. So real model those positive behaviours, that genuine, authentic and willingness to be able to collaborate to achieve those shared outcomes. We look at also accountability, because in government, everything tends to be, the accountability lies with that government department, but it needs to have that shared responsibility and ownership. So it's very multifaceted. It is very, very complex. So I think having those shared incentives, because if we're able to have shared outcomes, we can work towards building the community. So from a women in tech, networks and community perspective, we can leverage that, because there is the governance that's the kind of the HR side of governance in terms of our organisations, but it's the communities and the networks that give you the genuine, the building of trust, which you don't necessarily get from the formal side of the infrastructure and governance with an organisation. So it's really important to be able to leverage our communities and be part of these staff networks and communities, it can help to contribute, it can help accelerate building relationships across government, really accelerate the collaboration, bringing expertise from different areas so it can accelerate that as well. So there's so many benefits to be able to do that. And from a government perspective, to be mission-led, it's, how can I put it? The emphasis really should be on people, platforms, and purpose. So we're all working towards the same shared goals. I don't know if that answered your question properly, Gavin.
It resonated a little. I was on a call. I'm working on a Scottish cross-government piece of work at the moment. And in a call yesterday, the phrase, well, who owns this, came up. We're 2 weeks from the end of the initial kind of discovery. I won't call it an alpha, but design-led discovery, I'm going to call it. And the question is, well, who's getting the funding to build the thing if this discovery proves that this thing is going to be useful to all the different government bodies and stakeholders on this call? And that is a big crux to the systemic barriers of collaboration, is who's paying for it. Thus, if who's paying for it, do they own it? Are they accountable? Yeah. Do we have to go on this change with you if we don't own it? There's all of those conversations that come out. I mean, for the most part, this particular, this is very timely for this panel, but this particular program, because we don't have the time to do a huge discovery to talk to every individual stakeholder. It's end of financial year, very typical project, 8 weeks to deliver. And so what we've done is design-led. So we're designing something and then putting it in front of the different government bodies, different stakeholders, local authorities, to say, how does this feel to you? What are the things that you're reacting to in this space? Which actually has worked really well for collaboration, because we're not stuck in that cycle of introspection or, oh, this won't work for us because of X, Y, and Z. So in some ways, it's a lovely piece of collaboration, but in others, that question came up yesterday of who owns this. Yeah.
I'm going to make a build on quite a few things that have been said across the day. For me, one of the big things that I'm doing as a leader is kind of working across government and is to formalise relationships and to proactively build communities, and across a broad swathe of differing levels. So as OS, we're working with GeoPlace and the LGA to actually formalise new ways of working and better ways of working to foster the local government partnerships and kind of do community building at the local government level. But in addition to that, we're also establishing more strategic partnerships that allow us to work a lot more effectively with ONS, HMLR, other central government organisations, because we've fallen into the trap of brilliant idea. Our people talk to each other really, really well. And we kick off something under a best endeavours. It's a really brilliant idea. It's ground up. But then it kind of succeeds and then fizzles. And there's a lack of longevity, and it always hits a stumbling block, which is related to funding. How do you then, getting people to collaborate around fostering an idea and getting it to do the initial design phase, we can collaborate brilliantly and really successful more often than not at that phase. Translating it then into delivery is then where it all gets a bit hard. And kind of the amount of things that we translate into delivery just feels like factor of 10 reduction. So as a leader, it really is about fostering the strategic partnerships, formalising things so that we actually do collaborate around shared vision, shared goals, shared outcomes, because and have a clear idea of who's going to lead, not necessarily lead which elements of things, playing on each other's strengths. So as a leader, that's where I kind of am sitting. What should the centre do? Keep doing, well, I'm going to call the centre, for me, DSIT. Keep doing what you're really good at, which is convening across government. We do need the centre to help us to remove some of the traction that gets in the way. So we do need the centre to do more. And again, there are really, really, really good cross-government communities from data science all the way through to data architecture. And I'm involved in some of those. But again, they succeed and fail. When they succeed, they've got really clear purpose. You're building a community to tackle something or to kind of learn from each other. When you don't have that clarity, having a community struggles.
And just to add to that is that it needs to be sustainable, so you can have the vision for a community, but you need the leadership sponsorship, and it needs to formalise part of the strategic capability within the organisation. For it to really succeed, you need to get that buy-in from senior leadership. And not have it as an add-on, because that's a lot of the time. I mean, obviously I'm based in HMRC. I've got lots of colleagues from across government. Hello, ladies in DWP, Home Office, where it's, we've already got really demanding day jobs, and the work that we do as part of our communities is an add-on, it's a side gig. But really, we need to really make it part of the strategic capability within our organisations, because there are so many more benefits to it in terms of accelerating learning, development, encouraging people, building capacity and capability within our organisations in terms of aligning to more strategic goals. If we want to improve the gender representation within our organisations, sadly in a lot of our government organisations, the higher up you climb, you find that the number of senior, women in senior positions really, really dwindles. So what can we do with that? We need to be able to see representation of senior women, and it's such a pleasure to be here to see so many incredible women, and we need to see people that we want to aspire to be as well. So having that function really part of our strategic capability and have people sponsor it is really important.
I guess a personal opinion rather than an NAO opinion from my experience in the civil service. I feel like the centre isn't as powerful as everyone thinks it is. I think when you work in the centre of government, sometimes you don't feel like you have any power or levers, and that's no bad thing. I think as long as people are clear on what they have to deliver and have the resources to do it, and have the ability to be honest about what they do know and what, you know, on what basis they're making decisions and what is the unknown. That's really important. But I wouldn't. I think sometimes the centre is almost an idea, whereas actually sometimes it might be, oh, someone at numbers 10 is chasing you about something, or some other aspect of the centre. But I think I would encourage all of you to think about what can you just do and get on with. What do you need permission for? What can you think about in terms of how you build your programmes? I think leadership is really important. That comes through in the work that the National Audit Office has done on major projects. That's a really good report if you want to look at how to get big things done, because I think it translates into every part of thinking about public sector delivery. Another part of that is the culture in your team. So making sure that you encourage diverse views, that you encourage people to disagree and figure out what the right answer is, rather than sometimes when the pressure's on and time is short, you all want to race to an answer that is just, it's the easiest option rather than really challenging, is that right? Do we have the evidence to take that choice, or do we need to, you know, disagree? What would the person disagreeing with us say? Because I think that's a real missed opportunity. So I think leadership and then the culture within your teams, which all of you will either lead or contribute to, being part of those teams is important.
Thanks. I'm going to take 2 questions from Slido to take us into lunch. So feel free to share any other final thoughts that you've got, as well as answers to these. This is an anonymous one. Teams working in silos could argue that they work collaboratively within their ecosystems. How do you break that down to deliver true cross-government collaboration? And we've also got a question from Megan, which is, we are currently going through a merger where digital and transformation are coming together. Any advice on how to break down the us versus them mentality? So true cross-government collaboration beyond ecosystems and us versus them.
I think the silo question is really interesting because, yes, you can collaborate in a small team, and actually it's probably working really well. But that speaks more about fear of change, and I think that's often a non-systemic a barrier to collaboration, right? So you're working effectively in your silo, you're ticking off the boxes that make your deputy director look good, or whatever your KPIs are. So there's no incentive to change, there's no incentive to do anything different. And that kind of fear of change, a fear of actually the diversity of thought or the challenge to the way you're working. I don't have a solution to it apart from the communities of practice, getting people together, talking about it, and actually the leaders of that silo challenging that the community, the internal or the inside-looking community that they've built. Yeah.
I think just to add to that, I think getting the leadership on board, getting the senior leaders to be able to have that initial connection, to get the teams to be able to liaise and find methods and techniques to be able to get people to talk about any fears that they do have, like you said, of change. I know most of us across government have been through different transformation changes and having to collaborate and change our ways of working. So try to build those environments where they're psychologically safe so people can talk about their fears and their worries. I think that's really critical, so people can be honest and they can feel that they can talk about how they're genuinely feeling, so you can do things to support those people. And just encouraging people, as difficult as it is, try to find some similarities. And again, it's back to kind of going, what are the shared goals? What are the outcomes that they want to achieve? What are the benefits? And I think one of the things we may have missed in this conversation is around shared successes. I think once you understand what the success is and have the incentives to be able to celebrate shared successes, I think you'll get probably more acceptance and more willingness to be able to not necessarily work in silos.
I'd just build on that, and it's probably a little lead into after lunch as well. Collaboration is based on culture. It really, really is. So, again, it does come down from the top, setting the right culture. We're going through an internal How do we break down teams working in silos from data to tech? So it's a kind of mini example. And it's hard. It's hard. It really is all about people. And collaboration really is about people working well together. And when we're kind of looking to drive change, I know that it definitely happens at Ordnance Survey. We almost forget about people. And where you're trying to do silo busting, fundamentally, a big part of it really is about remembering that you're trying to bring people together. So don't underestimate and don't forget about investing in team building and getting the individuals to meet each other and learn about each other, connect as humans. That is as important as setting them up with a shared purpose and trying to bring them together to work together to a common goal.
One of the things that really struck me from earlier, and I guess I've been thinking about it a lot because as we look at AI and agentics, that's only ever going to be as good as the data sets and the information that you have within your systems. And I think you've probably all come across where you can totally see where something has been built in a silo, whether it be a niche bit of health data or a bit of education data or the way that we ask schools to give us information. You can see all those silos and how much more work they create when you come in a few years later or a decade later and have to think about how do I deliver this new thing, but in the context of the foundations being so separate. And you can see that play out locally when local areas can't share data or don't have a common data set. So I think there is something about, there's almost a responsibility, I think, for all of us to think about to really get the benefit in terms of taxpayers' money of all the innovation potential of AI and digital. What are the basics that we also need to put in place? And how do we need to think differently about that so that it actually works across the silos, not just within the bit that you've been tasked with?
Thank you. We're about to head to lunch next door until 2:15, but before we do, a massive thank you to Verity, Debbie, Amanda and Dina. Thank you.